gonna listen to? Oh, OWSPORTS. What you gonna listen to? Oh, OWSPORTS. Sit back, relax. Vince and Stevie D are gonna break it down about the team from their hometown.
And there he goes, inside the 10, the 5. Oh, the play of the year. That's a jet touchdown. Garrett Wilson strikes.
You gonna laugh, you gonna cry, but these two are ride or die.
61-yard try for the lead. It is Owens. He's got it. He's got it. He's got it. Here is Hall. Shot out of the cannon, and he will score.
They'll take you all the way to the Super Bowl or the exhibition game. Stay with them all the way to the Hall of Fame.
And the AP Most Valuable Player presented by Invisalign is Josh Allen.
Be good, do good. God bless, and go Bills.
And we're back to another edition of Official Word Sports. I'm Vince. I'm here with my man Stevie D. And Stevie D, you know how when the snow was falling and it's in December and they say it's the most wonderful time of the year? Well, for us, it is late July and it is hot outside. The sun is beaming, but this is the most wonderful time of the year. Today, at least for us, as well as you, is the first day that the boys got back on the field, and this is truly the start of the 2025 NFL season. Yeah, we had mini camp and all the draft and free agency and all that, but this is the start. This is the start.
This is where everybody's got the same hope and dreams. Everybody's record is the same. Well, excuse me?
I can't hear you. You were saying something, but I couldn't hear you.
Can you hear me
But
now? Can you hear me now?
It's probably me.
Okay. So, yeah, no, this is where everybody's record 0-0 and everybody's got the hopes of their team could be on top. And it's just exciting. It's an exciting time of year.
Let's do
Like
a
Christmas.
test here. Yeah, can you go, Stevie D? Can we hear you?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah. You can't hear me?
Once again, our friends have done us a disservice. That's all I'm going to say, Stevie D, is that our friends have done us a disservice. What I was saying is that this is the most wonderful time of the year, and it's the most wonderful time of the year because training camp has started. The we're not ready for pads yet. That's coming up soon. But you were actually ready to get rolling for another season. What's amazing is that we talk about it all the time, and when we talk about it all the time, we talk about how fast the season actually goes. And so I want everybody to set your watches because it is July 23rd, and before you know it, it's going to be week 17, and we're going to say the season's almost over. And unbelievable how fast time will fly. But let's enjoy it. Let's enjoy the ride. For some of you that are out there, especially if you're not Bills fans or if you're not a Jet fan, it may be a long ride. Those in Cleveland, those in Jacksonville, it could be a long ride for you. But for others, and Craig, I know that you'll be on at some point. So if you get a chance to hear the replay of this, I'm actually giving you some kudos and giving you some credits, Craig. So don't get worried. You look at Stevie D's reaction. But it's going to be a good ride for you as well. But it's going to go fast. It's amazing how fast this goes. Talking about my Bills just real quick, listen to some of the reports. I think the shocker that came out was that Dawson Knox is not ready for day one. There's Greg. Dawson Knox is not ready for day one of camp. And
I heard that. I heard that.
That's going to be that's going to be something to keep an eye on. Hopefully, it's nothing too serious. I haven't heard the final report or the final prognosis there with Dawson. But just anytime you never want to hear any of your guys on a pup list or anything like that. And who knows, right? It could be something way overblown. Not sure. And you know how similar to hockey, they never give you all the details, right? It's a lower body, it's an upper body, right? Some sort of maintenance. So we'll see. But hopefully you get all the guys coming in healthy. Uh, my question is, how long will Bosa stay healthy? Right?
Yeah,
Is
that's
that's good. That's going to be something that we're going to have to try to figure out as well. So, some other things to go. And Craig is here, right? Craig, welcome, Craig. And Craig, I no shade. It's too early in the season to have any shade. Way too early. So I said that you're going to enjoy the ride if you caught that, right? Your Ravens are poised to have a good year. I think your division uh, will be very interesting, especially when you talk about the likes of Aaron Rodgers, DK Metcalf going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Well, how much better does that make the Steelers? The fact that Watt resigned, and so they seem to be their defense always seems to be pretty solid. Um, Will those two additions to the offense make any sort of improvement in their ranking, in their standing? And then how does that play out? You also have the Bengals, and Stevie D and I were talking yesterday about the Bengals. I'd love to say that the Bengals are going to be a formidable player in that division. But when you can't get it right, you have an all pro defensive end uh, that needs to be paid, wants to be paid, and now has left. I heard he left training camp. That just is not just a single player. It's not a single position. That's the type of thing that reverberates throughout the locker room, right? And that gets into the minds of all the different players that are there. Now they did some good things, right? They did the Chase re-signing, they did the Higgins re-signing. Those were good moves, right? That shows that hey, we're willing to keep our guys. But then you turn around and you blow off your defensive end. That's not good.
crazy.
That's not good. So and then of course the Browns. I don't know what to say on the Browns. I, I really don't. But at least 3 out of 4 or 2 out of 4 ain't bad. So Craig, you have a little bit of competition in there, um, and we'll have to see how that's going to shake out. Uh, again, I keep thinking about the Browns. The Browns just need to stop. Put Shador in there. Be done with the Kenny Pickett experiment. Be done with Joe Flacco. I forget the other rookie that they drafted, Desmond or Gabriel, Dylan Gabriel. Forget about him. Just put Shador in there and just ride it out for 18 weeks, and you'll be better off going into 2026. That's the way I see the Browns. But who knows there? Stevie D, how we making out over there?
I don't know. I
So,
got nothing. I'm gonna drop.
so the funny thing is, Stevie D, I can't hear you, but they can hear you. So
Oh,
uh,
okay. Oh, this is gonna be interesting. This is gonna be interesting.
this is going to be interesting. Once again, to our fans, and I'm going to have to tell you, there was there's been somebody who's kind of part of the podcast who um, has been a lot, a long time subscriber, I guess we'll say, um, who is trying to start his podcast, and he was yelling at his platform. Well, I've been yelling at our platform now for what, the last 6 weeks. It was funny how they responded back and said, Uh, try to reboot. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Uh, Tech support 101. Hit the reboot key and let's write. Yeah, we're well past that. And my man Stevie D and I are kind of in the same field, and we've seen some of this, and we know the terminology. It's called a sprint. So you guys had a sprint that you completed, but you failed the QA, you failed the UAT, and thus you rolled it out. And now here's your platform, and we have this. And now it's time for what you call a rollback. We're just using some of the what do they call it? The buzzword bingo, right? Isn't that what that is?
Yeah.
And they need to roll it back. So we're going to try this. This is going to be very interesting. I caution to say, be careful because you may have some disjointed
I always
conversation going.
knew Vince wanted to tune me out, right? And so now he's got to read my lips. But this is a way for him to tune me out when I talk about my Jet stuff because he doesn't have to hear it. So smart. Nicely done. Nicely done.
Okay, so the fact that you stopped talking. Oh, how do we do this one? This is going to be very interesting. I think what's best. We're actually going to put up a pause. We appreciate everybody watching. What we're going to do is we're going to see if we can figure out exactly what's going on here. Because unfortunately, part of this podcast, what makes this podcast great is the dialogue that Stevie D and I are able to have, right? And we want to bring you into, what do they say? Bring you into the living room. And so as we do so, if I can't hear what my man Stevie D is saying, and if Stevie D can't hear what I'm saying,
No,
then
I can hear you.
something's going on. So what we are going to do is we're going to go to a quick brief timeout, and we're going to adjust some things, and then hopefully we can get going because tonight's show is all about the Hall of Fame, and like Stevie D said earlier, maybe it's the Hall of Fame gods, maybe the bust in Canton have all kind of gotten together and they heard exactly what OW Sports was going to say. They saw that title come up, right? And they got a little worried. There's some people over there like Terrell Davis, like, guys, I need some help because they're trying to kick me out of here. Well, yes, we are. And, maybe there's some other people saying, make room for Cornelius Bennett. Because, yes, you do need to make room for Cornelius Bennett and Steve Tasker. And after tonight's show, if it ever happens, after tonight's show, maybe things will change for the next induction ceremony. But if you can give us just a little bit, we're going to take a brief timeout and we'll be right back. Stevie D, tell me you were there.
Can you hear me?
Oh,
We're back?
we're back, baby. We're back. Wow. Wow. Where's the intern to edit this one? Boy, we need to get some things on the chopping floor. Oh, we're back. All right. So, earlier we were talking a little bit about, just what was happening, the most wonderful time of the year. Things are great. Craig, again, no shade at all, Craig, to you, right? And Stevie D, as we start looking into the future weeks, right? This week is going to be dedicated to the Hall of Fame. When we start looking at future weeks, we're going to start breaking down some of the divisions. Um, it'll be interesting to see, um, especially from your opinion and for some of those that are out there, see their opinion as to where some of those teams that finished maybe towards the bottom last year to see if anybody is on the rise, right, on the move up, and then kind of in the reverse. And I'll give you one, right? We like to drop nuggets. The Detroit Lions. The
They took a
Detroit
heavy hit.
the Detroit Lions are going to be a vastly different team in 2025 than they were in 2024, right? And I don't know if they can recover. Dan Campbell will have to really step up and show that he is truly deserving of all of the hype, praise, and accolades that he received before. Or was it Ben Johnson? Was it Aaron Glenn? Right? Was it all the other coaches that were part of that staff that really helped propel the Lions into such a good year? Stevie D, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with the Lions.
I'm with you. When you look at the Eagles, when they lost their offensive and defensive coordinator, that following year, they just were not the same team. Their offense was not the same. It just, they were a playoff team, but they just were not in sync all year,
Mhm.
right? And you can kind of maybe see that out of Detroit. And really, Jared Goff, I'm going to be honest with you. I've never been a Jared Goff fan from he came out of college.
What?
And, yeah, yeah.
I thought you had his jersey. You were part of the Jared Goff fan club.
Yeah, well, yeah, I see what you're doing there. But the reality is, without Ben Johnson, who was a big part of Jared Goff's rebirth, will he take a step back as a quarterback without Ben Johnson, right? Because, again, we know Ben Johnson with the scheme, but Ben Johnson, the coach, in talking up his player and really putting Jared Goff in the right position to succeed, knowing the strengths of the quarterback. And so we'll see.
Yeah, we're sure. We're sure. So Stevie D, I would say set your clocks, but tomorrow, a week from tomorrow, um, those Detroit Lions that we're talking about, we're going to get the first glimpse. Now obviously, it's going to be the Hall of Fame game, so we're not going to really. We might see Jared Goff. Who knows? Dan Campbell likes to bite kneecaps. He may say, "I want my first team out there," right? But it's the Hall of Fame game, Stevie D, and so it's going to be the Chargers and the Lions. I can't wait, even though I probably can only watch two plays, and then I'll be done. But I can't wait. Uh, but it's the Hall of Fame game. Again, Hall of Fame game, Stevie D, which means that they're going to honor the new enshrinees into the Hall of Fame. And when we start looking at those new enshrinees, I got questions already. I have questions, right? So Eric Allen gets in, Jared Allen gets in, Bob Allen gets in. Tim Allen. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I thought they had a theme going, just running with the last name Allen. Antonio Gates gets in. Sterling Sharp gets in. So, those are some of the names. And then I'm wondering, well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wasn't Eli on there? Eli didn't get in. So,
Well,
Stevie D, as we start this, let's look at those names that are going in. Eric Allen, Jared Allen, Antonio Gates, Sterling Sharp. What stands out to you?
it's a light class. I know we're probably talking about names, but I wanted to take a step back because you posed the question. It's a very light class. when you think of generally in the NFL, you have 5 modern day players that go in one senior selection. We only have 3. So what I don't understand is when you normally have 5, so you're saying everybody else right then and there are not Hall of Famers. So whatever you have on that list should be now thrown out. Right? Those people should be abolished from being able unless they're coming on the senior vote.
Great point. Great point.
Right? So I don't agree with it. I'm just saying if you're only voting in 3 modern day players and you see 5 every year, then that means Eli Manning, all those other players that were close are not Hall of Famers because you had an opportunity to do it. You had an opportunity to clear out maybe even a backlog of players that are stuck behind, first ballot Hall of Famers, and you just can't seem to navigate that because every year you seem like you have a batch of first time Hall of Famers. When you look at this list, there is not a first ballot Hall of Famer on this list. There's not one. Right?
So-
These are all people that have been out of the game past 5 years.
So here's the thing, and this really starts the debate, right? And we're not even 4 names in, and we're debating, and we haven't even debated the players. We're debating the amount of players. It goes back to an agenda. It goes back to moving the goalposts. Craig will know what I mean by moving the goalposts, but it goes back to moving. If this is what you set up in 2024 or 2023 or 1999, you didn't tell anybody, hey, we're going to reduce the amount of players that are going to go in and we're going to move it down to 3, right? We think that 5 is too much. You didn't say that. You just said, here's our vote. So to Stevie D, to your point, I have 2 spots. If I can't fill those 2 spots this year, then how in the world am I going to fill those spots, put those names in next year, the year after, or the year after?
I just simply put it, if you have 2 open spots, everybody that was on the ballot, on the semifinalists, even before that, right? They dwindle it down from 100 to 50 to 25 to 15, and then they vote. If you couldn't come up with 5, then all of them should now be null and void to the Hall of Fame because you had 2 spots to put them in, especially the top 15. I mean, again, how do they vote? I don't know. Did everybody vote for those 3 guys only? And so the other 12 people didn't get enough votes. Maybe there is something behind the scenes, Vince, that they have to get X amount of the vote to be selected, and everybody else went for those top 3, and it left those 2 spots, vacant. I don't know. It's a shame that every year it's 5 people and this year's 3 when you have so many deserving players that were left off.
Let me throw some names at you.
Yeah.
Reggie Wayne. Reggie Wayne is a Hall of Famer. All right, well, hold on. Before I even get to Reggie Wayne, yes, he did go to the. But let me start by saying that I believe that the NFL Hall of Fame is all about a smell test. I think the NBA, NHL, MLB, it's a smell test. Either you are or you aren't. You smell like roses or you smell like whatever, right? And it's not going to change. It doesn't change tomorrow. Your career ended. Doesn't mean that you were a bad player. You can be a great player. Are you Hall of Fame worthy? If I smell it, you're Hall of Fame worthy, and you know it. You haven't done anything since you retired to improve your stock. If anything, as the game evolves, your numbers actually look worse. Right? If you look at receivers, a guy back in 2010 may have had 10,000 yards receiving. You would have said, "Wow, what a great career! 12,000 yards, what a great career." Now you look at guys. By the time they get to their 5th or 6th season, they're knocking on the door of that record. So nothing has changed. So either you are or you aren't. So when you look at a Reggie Wayne smell test, DVD, Reggie Wayne is a Hall of Famer. He was dominant during his era. When Marvin left, he took over and remained dominant. He was number 2 to Harrison's 1. I get that.
Yeah.
But it's not like he fell flat on his face. We've seen it plenty of times where a guy is a number 2 and says, I should be a number 1. I'm a number 1.
Alvin Harper. Not that I'm calling you out.
Well, I had something with my hand. Right? The ball hurt when it hit my hand. But we've seen that plenty of times. And so here's a guy in that exact same situation that did not fall. If anything, he rose higher. So here he is being able to be presented with this honor. And to your point, right? Keep in mind, everybody, keep what Stevie D said. There's 2 open spots. And you're telling me Reggie Wayne couldn't be one of those? Here's another name for you. T Sizzle. That's for you too, Craig. T Sizzle.
He's eligible and he didn't get voted in. Wow.
There's another name for you.
It's hard to believe he's out of the league that long already. To be honest with you.
It is. It
wow.
is. There's some that we debate. Is Anquan Bolden a Hall of Famer? He's on the edge, but if I did my smell test, I'd say no. And he's a Seminole. So, I gave credits to the U, and here I'm throwing shade at a Seminole. But, I'd say no. A great wide receiver to have on your team, right? But I just don't think that it went there. Steve Smith Sr. Now, we debate this one, right? I say no.
I like Steve Smith for the Hall of Fame.
And this is what would make it great, right? He should be worthy of the debate, and you build the argument, and you say, and maybe I wasn't smelling it the right way, right? Maybe a gust of wind blew from the other side. I'm like, you know what? You're right, Stevie D. You're right. But I would be okay with that, right? I would be okay with that. Craig says he won a Super Bowl with the Ravens. Well, that's a whole nother issue. You kind of jumped ahead, Craig, because we're going to talk about that Super Bowl in just a little bit. Not the Ravens Super Bowl, but the Super Bowl being part of the criteria to get in. Stevie D, just some other names, and we won't go through each and every one of them, but Hines Ward, Fred Taylor, Ricky Waters, Adam Vinatieri, James Harrison, and I won't mention somebody else's name. I think when I list all of those, the surprise that probably should be in there is Adam Vinatieri.
When you kick 3 game-winning field goals in Super Bowl play, he's had some of the most iconic clutch kicks in the snow, bad weather. At the time, I think when he retired, I think he had the highest field goal percentage. And when you talk about that Mount Rushmore of kickers, he's there. So why would you not put him in? Why would you make him wait 10 or 15? Is it because he's a kicker?
Another problem we have with the Hall of Fame, the voters. You're changing the criteria. You say that the criteria, and we're going to pull this up a little bit later, but you've defined what the criteria is to get into the Hall of Fame. Part of it is your length of stay in the league, right? So what's your tenure? Part of it is what's your contributions. Have you had any records? Well, here's a guy. Check. Right, the Tuck Rule game started it all. That's when we first were introduced to Adam Vinatieri. Right? Because after that whole debacle, fumble, no fumble, whatever, he's the one that came on the field in the snow, like Stevie D said, in the snow. And it was not just in the snow, it was in a blizzard, right? You can't see, and puts it right down the middle. And being part of the AFC East, we've had to see this guy. Clutch kick after clutch kick. He is number 4. And in my opinion, he may be of that class, maybe number 1. Think about it. They don't have those rings without him.
Right. I mean, if you look at these guys here, that guy did the work in the absolute clutch moment of the game to win the Super Bowl. right? I don't know what more you'd want out of a Hall of Famer when you say clutch, right? Plus, his field goal percentage through his career was ridiculous. It's bizarre. This class is truly bizarre. It's a bizarre class.
It is. It is. All right, so let's look at the class, Stevie D. Um, and I'm just gonna say it. Okay. I said to you yesterday, Eric Allen was a great player, right? You knew him, right? You knew him. He was out there. In my opinion, he wasn't a feared player.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
not. I'll go after Eric Allen all day long. And in a sport like football, right, and especially receiver, defensive back, it's mano a mano. And when you go mano a mano, sometimes you win, sometimes I win, right? And if in Eric Allen's case, when he wins, right, maybe it's an interception, maybe it's a pick six. Okay, you tip your cap. You made a great play. And he was able to make great plays throughout his career. Doesn't mean that you're a Hall of Famer. So we start talking about the Hall of Very Good. And very good maybe sounds bad, right? Maybe the Hall of Excellent. And then you have the Hall of Fame.
When you think of Eric Allen, like I think that one year he had four pick sixes in a year. Look at the guy the Cowboys had a couple of years ago.
Diggs.
He had like no, not well. Diggs had a very good year, but there was another guy where his cover corner rating was atrocious, but he had like 5 defensive touchdowns
Right.
and 8 or 9 picks, and it was a great year. And if you look at Eric Allen, he had one of those years where it was a really great touchdown year. But I don't think teams were game planning against Eric Allen week in and week out and how to avoid Eric Allen. I think it's just kind of what you said. Again, hold it very good. We got a section for you. It's just a little bit over here, right? So I agree with you, man. I don't think Eric Allen is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. And Eric Allen, if you're watching, no disrespect.
Yeah.
No disrespect. You balled out, right? You absolutely balled out. We knew who you were. But if I were to put Eric Allen in prime, right? Eric Allen in prime.
Well, that's a little unfair.
Why? We're saying Hall of Fame.
Yes, but not every Hall of Famer is of the same class.
Then they don't deserve to be in.
Man, that's hard. That's hard. I don't know if I can go there, man. That's hard because I mean, Dion is like that Mount Rushmore, right? Of Hall of Fame kind of guys, right? Where not every corner that's in there you would necessarily put at he was the greatest, right? Like
He was.
you could still be in the Hall and not be as good as Dion. I mean, heck, you could be in the Hall as good as Terrell Davis.
Oh, that's a little snippet as to what's to come, ladies and gentlemen. No, and I hear you, Stevie D. I do. I hear you. Not that I don't disagree with what you're saying there, right? I just think that when you're great, you're great. And if I look down the line, I should see other great players.
Well, I'll put it this way. Maybe this helps the conversation. When you talk about corners, the great corners that play the game, I don't think I would ever mention Eric Allen's name.
Yes.
And I think that for me, from a Hall of Fame perspective, if your name is not coming out of my mouth, are you all? Now, I'm not saying I know every player at every position through the years, but if I'm thinking corner, Eric Allen is probably not even coming up in the top. I mean, he's just not. Like I never looked at him that way. So I guess for me, if I can't get your name out of my mouth to say it, and who are some of the greats that played the game at corner, Eric Allen's not. So for me, he's not a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. I would have to absolutely agree with that. Right. I was trying to bring back the list to see who Eric Allen really. Yeah, and I have some players, right? But so let's say we've put Prime at the Mount Rushmore, right? And I'm just going to throw some names out there, and Daryl Green on the other side. Are you really trying to throw the ball either side?
I'm throwing it to Eric Allen all day, every day.
No. If it's Prime and Daryl Green,
Oh, I'm throwing it towards Daryl Green before I'm throwing it towards Deion Sanders.
but I'm probably going to run the ball more than I'm going to pass.
Well, yeah, well, okay. Well, I thought you meant from just a strict passing. I didn't realize you were going to mix in a run with that, right? Yeah, that could probably be a heavy run day.
Yeah,
Right.
we're going to stay away from that. I'll even throw your guy Revis in there. I'm going to run the ball, right? Just trying to go through some of the other defensive backs that are out there. Charles Woodson, probably going to just try to stay away from passing as much because these guys are going to be there. Again, if I say Eric Allen in Prime, I'm going on Eric Allen's side. I'm going to pass. Passing has not come out of my playbook. Same with I'll give you another name who I don't really think he should be in there is Rondé Barber. Rondé Barber's over there.
Man, you're hard on Rondé.
Well, I you get in because of a stat, right? You look at his interception and sack total. You're coming off the corner to sack. All right, okay. So you got a good burst. You timed it right, and you got around the corner, and you had Joe Flacco standing there. He's slow, can't move, can't do anything. That's not against Craig. This is against the Cleveland Browns now. But even though Craig did want to mention Flacco as a QB, so I guess he's still revered back. But you see what I'm saying, right? I'll even throw my guy in there. You got Drew Bledsoe standing there, right? You're statuesque type quarterbacks, right? They're not getting away, and so yeah, you got a sack, and so you're able to put up those numbers.
I mean, Eric Allen hasn't played in 24 years, right? So in the era that he played in, and the statistics that he put up, would that change?
There's another one. I'm staying away from throwing. I'm running the ball. Right. But to talking about Eric Allen's stats, and you're right. So I don't want to belabor and take too much time on Eric Allen, but when we look at it, look at this class. No. Right.
Yeah, I agree. When I think of all the players that were passed over, for him to get in it's odd. It's odd.
So now we have 3 openings. In our opinion, there's 3 openings because there's one that shouldn't be in there, and there's still 2 openings. So how is Reggie Wayne not in the Hall of Fame? Just saying, Stevie D.
Reggie Wayne's asking the same question, by the way.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Jared Allen will be inducted. Now, when we talked yesterday, I'm pro Jared Allen.
I didn't realize some of his numbers and the things that he put. So I had to do a little research, and I quickly came around on Jared Allen.
Pierce, unfortunately, he started with the Chiefs, but he made a good move and got out of there.
Well, what happened there, I don't know if you remember, he had an alcohol problem. And I think that's what ran him out of Kansas City. I think he found sobriety with I thought he played longer with the Vikings, but he kind of when he went with the Vikings, he found sobriety.
Well, anybody playing that organization would probably look to a bottle.
Wrong era, though. Now I would agree. Now I don't know.
So I think we're okay with that. No debate needed. Yeah. You deserve to have a bus. You should,
and that's how easy it should be.
Exactly. That's the spell test. Right. Antonio Gates, no brainer. Yeah. Antonio Gates, dominant as a tight end. Antonio Gates redefined the tight end position. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
He was in the same era, Tony Gonzalez, but redefined it. Redefined the pay structure for the tight ends that are playing today. Keep that in mind. Yeah. Right? This is a guy, hands down, deserves to be in. Okay? Philip Rivers should be saying, "Well, I threw him the ball, so I should get it too." Not so fast, Philip. Not so fast. Who just retired, by the way?
Yes, finally.
Officially retired.
All right,
Um,
so who's next? We're only up to the G's.
right? So now of 5, we got 2. We still got 3 spots, and so then they're done. They stopped, and they said, "Okay, let's go to the senior committee." And Sterling Sharp went in, and this one, this is what this show is all about. For this one, it really is. I like Sterling Sharp.
I love Sterling Sharp.
You love him. I like him. You love him.
Yeah.
I think that's because he had some green in his uniform. That's probably.
Well, I'm not gonna. That's not gonna take. Definitely. That's.
And then when I looked at his numbers, it's funny. If you ever look at Sterling Sharp's team numbers, his records, he has the record for everything as a receiver in Green Bay.
And think of what Devontae Adams did there, and he still doesn't have more than Sterling Sharp.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up, right? Because either that is an indictment on the Green Bay Packers as an organization, especially as we have transitioned into a passing type league, or it says Sterling Sharp was just that special.
He was that special because he was the only thing in Green Bay. When he came out in '88, he was the only thing in Green Bay. There was no running game. There was no tight end. There was no number 2 receiver. He would be double teamed. He had the speed to break away, to break the coverage and make the catch. He could catch it in traffic. He was.
Are you forgetting about the pedophile?
He was later.
Oh, was he later?
Chamorro. I think you're thinking about Mark Chamorro. Yeah, he was later with Brett Favre. But
Okay.
when Sharp came in '88, there was nothing there. Green Bay was. Nobody knew what Green Bay was. They thought it was a disease because they went so long in between, successful seasons, right? So he was an incredible receiver. The game got robbed from his injury.
Yes. And so, again, we debated this one last night, right? Not debated.
We had a really good conversation at length last night.
Yeah. And yeah, I agree with you, right? Really looking at it. I think part of the hang up that I had was the short amount of time. 7 years is not that short, but the short amount of time to expectations for the Hall. And then it was Green Bay, right? That's all it was. It was Green Bay. You didn't hear about Green Bay. You didn't know about Green Bay. So, and especially living in an era where there was an era that there wasn't any social media. In the beginning, there was no internet, right? There was no streaming service. You were catching ESPN and whatever ESPN would give you, and they give you what they want to give you, right? There was no NFL Network. So to be able to see it and appreciate it, you had to catch it. And I think sometimes that hurts a player as well, especially from that older era, because we're not as in tune as we are today. And looking at that, I changed.
Right, and what we talked about yesterday. I don't know if this is the part where you wanted to kind of segue or talk about it, but his 7 years, I think there's a difference of when you get hit with a hamstring injury or a torn bicep, and then you had a knee injury, or you had a shoulder separate and you missed time. When you have a catastrophic injury and the doctors tell you you can never play again, I think for me, I only speak for me, changes my opinion on the hurt player, because he got wiped out on one play, and his particular was a neck injury, which you have to be really careful around the neck, right? And the doctors told him, you play, your injury for paralysis is very, very high. Not a little, very high, extremely high. So he made the painful choice to walk away for his health. I don't think a person like that should be penalized. It's kind of like what you mentioned about Gale Sayers, right? Gale Sayers, how can you not put the Kansas Comet in the Hall of Fame? He was unbelievable. And then what happened? He got hurt. He can never play again. Doesn't mean he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame because Sterling Sharp, what I'll say is his level, his production was there every year, if not going up, especially because he had Brett Favre come in, right? Now all of a sudden you have a really legit young quarterback throwing you the football. Sterling was, again, climbing that ladder, and you could say projection-wise, he was going to continue to put those numbers up. Same thing with Gale Sayers. He was going to continue to dominate, right? Where others that I think have gotten hurt and got into the Hall of Fame, I don't know. I think we kind of stretched that because you couldn't stay healthy. You just couldn't stay healthy enough to do it, and you lingered around for a couple of years. No. I think the catastrophic injury that knocks you out for your career, you shouldn't be penalized for that. That's nothing you can do about it. The game of football happened.
That's right.
It's a violent sport, and that's my take on.
So let's pause. Let's pause there for just a moment because you made a statement, and this is a football. For the most part, this is a football podcast. The game of football and injuries go together.
Yeah.
There is a owner that doesn't want to write a contract because what happens if that player has a guaranteed contract and through that guaranteed contract, he gets hurt?
I'm just glad it wasn't my owner, okay? That's all I'm saying. For once, I'm glad it's not my owner saying something stupid. That was an unbelievable conversation that Jerry Jones had with the media. I mean, truly unbelievable. And then he said, well, and then look at what I had to do with Dak. Dak got hurt and he missed 12 games. Like, I truly don't know where he was going. Truly don't know. Very confusing. Very confusing. So it's if I'm a Cowboys fan, I'm literally lost with my owner. Literally lost with my owner. I don't know what to do. And who I don't even know how I'd want to pay and go to a game to have an owner that is he that tone deaf? I mean, when you think about what happened the last two off seasons, this off season and the year before, you had CeeDee Lamb and Dak. By him procrastinating to give him a deal, he cost his salary cap probably $25 to $30 million in those two players that year because you waited. You knew you had to pay him, but because Jerry wanted to do it on his terms and how he wanted to dictate, he hurt his team's financial position with the salary cap. Right now, this offseason, you fast forward again without controversy. He says the dumb of dumb things with Micah Parsons. How is that supposed to resonate in the locker room? It's mind-blowing to me. Mind-blowing. Injuries are part of the game. It's going to happen.
But keep in mind, not only did he say the dumb things, he's doing the dumb things, right? The definition of doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different result is
insanity.
And this is exactly what's happening. You just said you did it with Dak. You just said you did it with CeeDee Lamb. You lost on both of those. You're doing the same thing with Micah Parsons, but now you've doubled down with opening your mouth and just letting all that spew out. This is the old man who should be at the nursing home, who's sitting there with his Jello, right, and just spouting off, right? Maybe pudding, right? Yeah, well, we'll have it's Wednesday, so it's pudding, right? With a little whipped cream on top, a little dollop of whipped cream. But that's where you should be now, Jerry, right? People can come and they can acknowledge all of the success that you had in business. Nobody's denying that, right? You made it, and you did quite well for yourself. You bought what was still quote unquote back then it was America's team. You see red, white, blue, that new America's team. But back then they were America's team. Okay, I'll give you that. You had a legendary coach that couldn't get out of his own way. And you've talked about it plenty of times. And they just weren't achieving. And you said, I can change that. You bought that franchise. You shocked the world when you got rid of Landry. Everybody hated you. You were persona non grata. How in the world could you get rid of Tom Landry? A few years later, on the heels of making one of the dumbest trades, good for you, but one of the dumbest trades, right? That gave you all of that windfall, you found yourself as a 3-time Super Bowl winning owner. It was 1996 DVD.
They haven't been in a championship game in 30 years. An NFC championship game in 30 years. I just heard that stat the other day. It was mind blowing that the Dallas Cowboys have not been in an NFC championship game in 30 years. Wow.
So,
And what's the one thing that's in common?
well, it's Jerry, right? Because Jerry got rid of Jimmy because Jerry said it was Jerry that did it.
You know, Jimmy Johnson had to be still probably laughing all the way back. He's out on his boat down there in Miami. And he's probably saying, where would the Cowboys be if they didn't get rid of me? Right? Because he wanted the notoriety. He wanted to be the guy that I built this team. I did it. I. And karma has bit him. And, you know, I made a comment on somebody's post the other day. I said, does Jerry Jones, the owner, tell Jerry Jones, the GM, that you're fired? Like, and he is that definition. I thought you said it best, the nursing home guy eating the pudding, because that's what Jerry is right now. And I can't believe his son has got to sit there and listen to this. I hope he doesn't buy into the rhetoric that his father's doing. He's got to be sitting there saying, my father's ruining this organization.
Yeah. And sometimes, at some point of time, you've got to just say, okay, we have to make that tough decision. And he's not going to be happy. But you got to do it. Right? You got to do it. But again, put him around some other people, same age group. They can get up, around 9:30, have some eggs and do whatever, right? They can sit in the chair.
They can do tummy time.
They can, right? They can go outside and feed the ducks, right? They can come back in, bring the grandkids by, reminisce, talk about all that. You can do that, Jerry. But you can't run a franchise. You're going to run this franchise in the ground. Not that I'm disappointed. Don't get me wrong. Right? Don't get me wrong. Anytime I can watch that star go down, that's a good day. But you're running it down. Now, for us, Stevie D, we don't want that to happen. Every week, we want to be able to come out and say, did you hear what Jerry said? Right? And can you believe what Jerry? I mean, that's great content. That is great content for podcasts, for sports radio, sports talk radio, for memes. That's great content.
I mean, think about Al Davis at the end, right? When he got to that critically older state, he wasn't the same owner. The Raiders were a mess when he died. Yeah, right. I mean, that team was on autopilot because they won with Barry Switzer.
Easy. I am a huge Barry Switzer fan.
Right, he was great in college. Great in college.
Bootlegger's boy. His problem is he came into the NFL behind Jimmy. That was his problem.
He was given the keys to
exactly.
The
that was his problem. He would never be accepted as a true Super Bowl winning head coach. But and Jerry and Barry were
yes.
Barry, Jimmy. But Jerry and Barry were quite close, or are quite close. I'm a huge Barry Switzer fan.
It's hard to believe Switzer's like 87 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy, man. Like
I remember Switzer with the old Oklahoma days, Jamal Holloway and Keith Jackson, Bosworth, all those guys. I love me some Barry Switzer. Love me some Barry Switzer. So, all right. Let's go back to the Hall of Fame. I just wanted to segue because you had made a statement, and I wanted to make sure we got it in because next week, of course, Jerry's going to say something else, and so then that'll be old, right? Just like the meme is going to be old, and before we finish, we're going to talk about the meme, right? And maybe we give some advice to people that if you're put on camera, don't all of a sudden jump out the way and make a spectacle of yourself and draw additional attention. Just be like, and then here's a little PSA, Stevie D, more than anything. Don't cheat.
I don't know. That's a novel idea, right?
Right? Don't cheat. Right? If you got to that point, all right. So now we're there. If you got to that point, right, then you need to be an adult and have an adult
Right.
conversation and say, "This is where we are."
Or just ask your partner if she's willing to swing. I mean, if you're
Well,
that, I mean, come on. Oh, that's the After Dark show.
well, it is 2025, right? And so, I mean, it's a little different than 1995. So, your answer may be a little different, but
Yeah.
don't do that. But if you are going to do that for whatever reason, right? We're not condoning that. Don't make a spectacle out of yourself with 30,000 people watching you to draw attention to say, "Look at them." And now more than anything, and people never think about this. This is that again. That was a selfish move. That was a selfish move on both parties. What are the ramifications? Yeah, you lost your job or you had to resign as CEO. That is minor. Stevie D, you said the biggest one when we were talking about it.
The 3 kids.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. So you decided to put them in harm's way.
They
They're
can't
the
go
one.
back to that school. Those kids. How do you go back to that school? Oh, what did your father do? And blah blah blah. You just people don't think of the downstream effects on things. They think of the here and now, and they forget about the what is that, like how a tornado leaves a neighborhood, right, in shambles, and you just tore that whole family apart. The woman's probably ruined, and the kids are gonna have to face this for the rest of their life with people, because kids are mean, right? And you got to hope. I'm sure the wife will move them so they get a new life somewhere else. But and again, her, don't forget her. She's not innocent either, right? Because she did the same thing to her family, right? Not for nothing, you run HR. So I mean, what are we doing here, people? So it's just sad that two families are ripped apart on that didn't need to be, and unfortunately, it happens all too often in this country, so or around the world.
All right, back to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
That was just a brief. We had those were two hot topics. We had to talk. Everybody's talking about the meme, right? Talking about Coldplay, so we had to, and then we had to talk about Jerry. Back to the Hall of Fame, Stevie D. So we went through the class that's going in this year. We went through the snubs, what you would call the snubs. But then when you start looking at, part of our issue with the Hall of Fame, uh, we kind of talked about it briefly, but let me start with this. Okay, and I want to be clear so that everybody understands. How do you get into the Hall of Fame? Right? I think we should understand what are the guidelines. Because again, Stevie D, remember, these goalposts seem to be going all over the place. But they say you have to be retired for at least 5 full seasons. Okay, that's easy, right? Nobody has a problem with that. And for the senior, or modern era or senior, it's after 25 years after eligibility. Um, when you look at the selection criteria, though, and this is really where you kind of dig into it, they want to know about your on field performance. Okay. What are your stats? What are your records? What awards? What's your postseason success? Defined as Super Bowls and clutch performances. Postseason clutch performances. Didn't I hear that earlier in the podcast, Stevie?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Okay. Longevity and consistency. Didn't I hear that?
Yes, you did.
Again, Adam Vinatieri, I guess that doesn't count. We don't care what you did on the field. Here's the next one, Stevie D. Impact on the game.
Right.
Revolutionizing a position or changing how the game is played. Thank you, Steve Tasker. Impact on the game, Stevie D. Influence on team success or league-wide trends. Matthew Slater, you can thank Steve Tasker. Leadership, professionalism, on and off the field behavior may be factored in. Okay, that they have now character and integrity. Comparison to peers, how the player stacks up against others at their position. If this is the criteria, Stevie D, this right here, we can go back to that list of players that are in the Hall of Fame, and we can absolutely start drawing lines through names. We can go in there with a sledgehammer and, no disrespect, start breaking bust. Because there are plenty of people that are in the Hall of Fame that have not met the criteria.
Yes, yes. If you're going by all of that, yes, absolutely.
And really, what has it become? It has become either I am forced to put somebody in because we only had four and I have to find a fifth, or this guy was so nice and I like him, and so he should go in. Okay, that wasn't a criteria, Stevie D. It wasn't. And you and I debate this. We go back and forth. We struggle.
Struggle, big time.
We
We
struggle.
talked about this maybe 5 or 6 years ago on the show because you used the word backlog, right? And some right where we talked about sometimes um, 5 players went in, but maybe only four should have went, right? It goes back to what we said in the beginning of the show, like if you can't fill the five, right? If you can't fill the five, then all those are now invalid. It truly it's there was another point I wanted to make, and it's kind of went out the top of the dome here, but
Welcome to old age.
yeah,
AARP is calling.
that card's coming real soon. They told me it's in the mail. It may take a little while to get there, but it's when you say the backlog, we talked about it 5 or 6 years ago that there were so many players that this player has to go in order to move this backlog. That was maybe 5 years ago we had that conversation. I think maybe in the wide receiver positions,
Remember
there was
Art
a
Monk?
backlog, right?
Remember Art Monk trying to
Yeah,
get in, and they said Art Monk couldn't get in because of.
the backlog, right? We still have a backlog, right? We still have a backlog, but yet only 3 modern day players went in. It's I don't know. It's like they have some explaining to do. Somebody's got to explain how this happened, and more to the players that are deserving to go in there. Like on those 15 finalists, somebody has to explain to those 15 finalists that says, yes, every year we put in 5. This year we're putting in 3. So those 12 other players got to be scratching their head like, man, okay, I may not have been voted in, but 2 of my other 12 brothers should have been able to get in to fill the 5 because it's been a constant for 5. And we keep talking about the backlog. It's mind blowing. Mind blowing.
We're going to be over to them very shortly.
They're not getting off the hook.
Not at all. Stand by. stand by. So, and I guess Stevie D, for the essence of time, this is a show that can go on part 1, part 2, part 3, right? And I do want to say, because I want to be careful, right? I really do. Um, and it's funny. It's like arbitration in sports, especially like hockey, right? You have hockey arbitration. You go in the room and you sit down and you say, "This player is garbage. He doesn't deserve this contract." Right? Baseball has the same thing, right? He's so bad. All the while, the year before, you're our guy. We need you. We love you, right? But as soon as you sit in arbitration, you want to talk about how bad, So I want to be careful here when, especially like Eric Allen, right? Again, no disrespect to Eric Allen whatsoever, right? I really do think that you were one of the great players that played, but I think there's this line, this invisible line, and I think you're close to that line, but I don't think you're past that line, right? And I want to be fair to you, right? Would I have you on my team? 100% I would have had you on my team. Absolutely. There's no debate about that. But I don't think that you're Hall of Fame. And maybe the problem is, Stevie D, that the writers, the fans, the players all look at what the Hall of Fame is different from one another. When you make a statement, you say the Mount Rushmore. We all know what the Mount Rushmore means. That is the top. That is the pantheon. That you can't get any higher. And if you're part of that, that never changes. You were the greatest. Doesn't mean that you had other people that other presidents that were not great for this country, that did not do good things for this country. Fortunately, there's four that are there, and that's it. We need to come back to the Hall of Fame and look at the Hall of Fame in those same terms. Doesn't mean that you didn't have a great season, and there's no denying what contributions you made. Sometimes your best just isn't good enough. You have to tip your cap to that guy, right? Look at golf. Phil Mickelson, who I didn't like. Phil Mickelson had a great career. But there happened to be this guy named Eldrick Tiger Woods that was out there competing against it and always kept Phil down. At the end of the day, Phil, you got to tip your cap. You got
Mickelson. Can't stand Mickelson.
But he has to tip his cap to Tiger, right? You competed, you went up against him, and each and every time he got you. Okay, fair enough. That doesn't mean that, Phil, you weren't a great golfer. Doesn't mean that. Not saying it. You know, one of the best short games, you can put the ball like 6 inches from the cup anywhere within 100 yards. I mean, you were deadly like that. But there's Tiger. That's the same thing with the Hall of Fame, right? Eric Allen, you could have a pick six. You could defend some of the best wide receivers. But then there's on the other side, then there's Deion. It's a different class. Just a different class. Right? Before we head over to baseball, though, Stevie D, I know you have an opinion on some players that are either in or that are clamoring to get in, right? And I know I do with trying to get them in. It take forever. But, you know, the one that stands out the most, I think that we go back and forth with, is Terrell Davis. I think that one, more than anything, is it's bothersome for me.
Hugely bothersome. Hugely. Yes, he had a 2,000-yard season. Good for you. It was a great year you had. If I look at his career over, 7 seasons, and I don't have his numbers in front of me, you can make the argument he had 4 good seasons, 1 great season, 4 really good seasons, 3 really good seasons, and the rest were whatever. And yes, he was cut short due to injury. But yes, he's got 2 Super Bowl trophies. Okay, it's great. You got 2 Super Bowl trophies. I don't see it. 4 years doesn't make you a Hall of Fame running back. I can't sign off on that. Again, injuries, but he played through the injuries. Even if he didn't play through the injuries, 4 years is still not good enough. It's not good enough.
That therein lies the problem. You just hit on it, right? So he played his first 4 years, right? So he had first year 1,100 yards, next year 15, next one 17, next one 2,000, and then
and then the following year, the New York Jets took him out, tore his ACL on a run down the sideline. They tackled him right as he was going out of bounds, and he blew out his knee. That's what happened. Literally, that's how the first injury happened. I don't know what happened on the subsequent injuries after that, but
I'm just shaking my head.
What? Because we took out another career.
Yes, there you go again, right?
Well, that's what he gets for beating the Jets in the AFC Championship game the year before.
If you can't beat them, then you hurt them. I understand. I understand. But in fairness, though, right after that, you're talking about you played a total in your last 3 years. You played a total of 17 games. You played a total of 78 games total, Stevie D. Here's what I would say when we talk about the Hall of Fame. Here's the next thing: the Hall of Fame needs to be redone. Needs to completely be redone. We have our ideas, right? Does Terrell Davis need to be in a museum dedicated to the NFL? 100%. He had a significant impact, especially in his first 4 seasons. There needs to be recognition, lifetime recognition of what Terrell Davis did. Absolutely agree.
See,
Have a
you're going further than I would. I don't look at that from Terrell Davis. Yes, he had some good seasons in the NFL, right? He had a 15, 17, and 2,000 yard season. Yes, he got injured. But I don't, when I look at the history of the game, the biggest thing I remember of Terrell Davis is that he was blind in the Super Bowl.
but in fairness, we all set certain milestones. Baseball 400. You hit over 400. That's rarefied air.
Right. Yep.
If a guy hits 400, his bat is going to
Oh, so you're going for 2,000 yards in that rarefied air.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Now
Okay.
it may change, as a game and the dynamic changes. But here's a guy that was at 17 and 2,000. He eclipsed that 2,000 mark. There should be a display that shows Terrell Davis, and
Oh, yeah, fair enough. Fair
it
enough.
shows
Yeah.
maybe not a bronze bust, but maybe aluminum bust of some sort, right? But then you have like the stat categories, a little bio of him, right? So he's
Well,
not
the
gonna
Hall of Fame does that today. They have sections that show greatness of players in a season that have done great things, and that's why that should be displayed as a monumental achievement in your career. Yes.
that's right. I mean, they could have a section that is called the 2000 Club. All the running backs that went for 2000, and you could see this story, right? And you could have the big asterisk footnote that unfortunately, after 4 seasons, who knows what would have been, right? But he was able to do this, led his team to 2 Super Bowls, yada yada. Terrell Davis. That's fine. That bus comes out of that room. It comes out. It doesn't need to be there. Don't forget about him. He accomplished a lot, but don't forget about him. But you're not in that same rarefied air as some of the others. There's some other names, Stevie D, and again, what's funny as we talk about this, there's times where you and I will go back and forth, and um, we just agree. Yep, yep. If sometimes it makes the conversation kind of difficult
Yeah.
because they're, yeah, you're right. I agree. So, we think too much alike on certain things, right? But then I look at some of the other players, and there was a name that came up yesterday, Palomalu. I don't know if I'm a
Oh,
Palomalu.
and he was, Craig. If you're still there, right? Like because you saw him twice a year. Playing the Ravens, maybe even 3 times a year with the playoffs. I don't know. That guy was everywhere you can imagine.
But are we again the media in what they show us, what they talk about, what they hype up, what we see in advertisements, you get stuck. Tiny Troy, everybody knows Tiny Troy, right? But were we not captivated by Palomalo because of the Superman dive over the line of scrimmage, and then the long flowing hair, and then you actually look at his play and compare his play? Was he more out of position than in position? How many plays did he actually make being out of position? Now, when you made a play, you stand out. You're a highlight reel because you made a play. But how often were you being having to have somebody kind of cover you because you were over there? It's things like that make me question truly Palomalo. I again a very 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 good player. I don't want to diminish when I say great because he was a great player, but I don't believe that Palomalo is Hall of Fame worthy. Here, I'll give you another name, Stevie D, and I loved this guy. Loved him. Steve Atwater.
Why are you taking out a former Jet? What's up with that? This show, I'm telling you, we were so good. We were
Quick
so
side note. Quick side note to that statement right there.
You're not going to bring this up.
I am. So we're I don't know if I can or not.
Good. We got to keep this show moving.
Do you remember when we did our top 5?
Yes. Of course.
Remember each week there was a Buffalo Bill in the background?
Oh, this is the payback thing?
Yeah, I'm just saying. So we're looking at all the players, and we're looking at how many teams have Hall of Famers. And there's some teams that, you look at the Packers or, even the Cowboys, but, teams that have been around that have long histories, and they have 20 and 30 guys that are in the Hall of Fame. Then you look at some of the newcomers and, they have, maybe 3. And then you kind of try and find where you are. Here my Bills we're at about 10 or 11. And I start looking up, and I'm like, 10 or 11? I thought we had more. And then I look and I'm like, why is T.O. considered a Buffalo Bill? Now, granted, the city of Buffalo absolutely just did everything for T.O. I mean, he gave him the key to the city. I think I told you that one day. I was like, what? Right? I love me some T.O., right? I love me some me. I love me some T.O. But, no, you're not a Buffalo Bill. And then I started scrolling through. I said, Stevie D, let's see how many your Jets have. And in an eye-popping list, there were like 20 players on there.
Shall we roll, baby? Shall we roll?
I'm like, wait a minute.
Iconic
Isn't this
franchise.
the same team for the last 4 weeks? We were going through their top 5, and we were struggling to figure out who could fit in the 5. And then I started looking. And it shows, if you ever get a chance, ladies and gentlemen, if you ever get a chance, and you want to laugh, it'll show the player, and it'll show the time with that team or that organization. And there was a list that started, and it had, guy Weeb Eubank. He was there like 10 years, right? And you start going down, and, guys there for 10 years, 12 years, 10 years, 11 years. Like, okay, all right, that's legit, right? That is legit. You played your career with that team. Then all of a sudden, hit the brakes. It just stopped. After like 5 names, it just stopped. And there's 15 names of guys that were with the Jets for 1 year. The end of their career, the Jets throw all this money at them so that, knowing that when they retire, that they will be able to say, a New York Jet Hall of Famer. 15 guys!
Those guys wanted so desperately to play for the Jets that most of them weren't even eligible for free agency. But they said, I got to play for the green and white. Got to make it happen before I retire.
It's on my bucket list. Is that
right?
What it is?
That's what I'm saying. I can't help that.
I like how you did that.
Got to get off this hot seat. But it is historically funny, right? From Art Monk to Ronnie Lott to Steve Atwater to Ed Reed to
keep going. Keep going. The list is this long.
Damian Thomason played 2 years for Jason Taylor. I mean, it just goes on, and it is funny how that happens where you get the guy at the end of their career and to want to come over. But again, when you think of a team, and I'm taking a shot at the Jets, when you have a team that is most of those players that signed, you were a bad franchise. And what are you trying to do? You're trying to sign a player to get fans to be energized. We're signing this Hall of Fame player, right? I mean, the guys that came in the 90s, they didn't play for good football teams. They just didn't. right? I mean, we had Ronnie Lott for multiple years, but he had to be saying like, "Are you kidding me? This is what I signed up for 2 years." I think he was happy to get the heck out of here to go to go to the Raiders to finish his career because he's like, we're just not a good football team. So it is funny. It is funny when you go down that list, and if you're anywhere near where you can check that out and look at that list, yeah, you'll get a chuckle at the names that are on there, that are in the Hall of Fame. So Ty Law is another one that comes to mind. But
All right, so I'll take it easy on you. That was just a little bit of payback for all of those images that I saw coming across the screen.
it's payback. But you're talking about the Jets. And it's all good in Hall of Fame, so it's all good. I
How to buy a Hall of Fame jacket.
got that right.
So, but there's others. I really feel Stevie D, and again, because of time, we're doing a disservice. I could pick out names. You could pick out names. This show really needs to be multi-segmented, and then we need to acknowledge those that are in there. Right? We have to acknowledge the speeches. The best speech ever was Ray Lewis. There you go, Craig. The best speech ever was Ray Lewis. Right? Michael Irvin had a
Love
great,
Michael Irvin's. Love.
yes,
I mean, he was telling people, "Don't be like me."
yes,
Right?
yes, and those things should be definitely applauded, right? Looking at other people that are in there and those that should not be in there, I'm just going to pick out some names here real quick. Stevie D, Devin Hester, no, and especially no until Steve Tasker gets in. And I'm not saying that because he's a Buffalo Bill. I'm saying that because we just identified what the criteria is. And there is definitely, and it's happening to Vinatieri, there is definitely a stigma on those two. Why? Devin Hester special teams. Devin Hester was no type of offensive threat.
Look, Dante Hall was a great returner,
There you go.
for the Chiefs. Now, Deion Sanders is in the Hall of Fame, but you needed a return. Deion Sanders like, I need to get in the game, right? And he'd make plays happen. But Dante Hall was Was he as good as Devin Hester? Well, not from a touchdown perspective, but Dante Hall was legit of a returner for the Kansas City Chiefs as they come. I think it's much for Devin Hester. I don't know. Yes, he had some good returns. He's had it in the Super Bowl. He's had big returns, but I struggle with the Devin Hester. When that happened, I said, really? I've told you for many years about your guy Tasker.
Yes.
Because a lot of people want to say Bill Bates. Okay. I don't credit Bill Bates. I credit Steve Tasker because he created a position on a 53-man roster. Teams have a spot for special teams. There's a position that gets voted in the Pro Bowl for special teams. That's because of Steve, directly related to Steve Tasker. When we're talking about changing and revolutionizing the game and making an impact in the game, Steve Tasker did that, not Bill Bates. Not Bill Bates. He played it, but his main position was a corner or safety, excuse me. I think he went from corner to safety. I truly believe that Tasker has that, right? I look at what you call it, Joe Namath. Okay, if you look at Joe Namath's numbers, you'd say, how the heck is he in the Hall of Fame? But if you looked in the era that he played in and what he meant to the game and what he brought to the quarterback position, how he showed players how to market yourself and make money. He had his own TV show. This was all revolutionary. That changed that position, changed that game. He had some good years in the NFL, but he had a ton of interceptions compared to touchdowns. But because of that impact he had in the game, we can't forget that, because if we allow Joe Namath to go in the game for that, you have to recognize the Steve Taskers, right? We finally
hold on. Stay to your guy, because there's no hate here with Namath, right? You said it. If you look at just the numbers, no, Joe's not, right. It's not. But what he did in this cannot be forgotten. He was the guy from the AFL that beat Goliath in being the Baltimore Colts in the NFL. The Jets,
Right.
led by Namath. That by itself is what put him in the Hall of Fame. What added to it was some of the other things, as you referenced, how he transcended the position. That right there, though, nobody thought that the Jets were going to beat Baltimore.
We were 17-point underdogs.
There you go. Right? And that's why they said to him, sitting in the lounge chair at the pool, do you think you can win? Well, first of all, dumbest question. Dumbest question. What's he supposed to say? No? Then why are you there? He said, yeah, we're going to win.
I guarantee it.
I guarantee it. And I would expect every player, every athlete who is competitive, I would expect them to say the exact same thing. If you don't say it, I'm questioning why you're on my team.
Right.
Let me be clear. But the fact that they went out there and they won and they beat the vaunted Baltimore Colts, right? You go in. And everything else that you did after that, it's either good or bad. Doesn't really matter to me, right? You marked your legacy. That game right there, that victory right there, put you in the Hall of Fame. So I'm giving your guy kudos.
Yeah.
100%.
But those transcending players that have left a mark, and Steve Tasker has done it. I mean, think of what he's done for the Players Union by creating a position because you were so good at it, right? There is no Larry Izzo, right? Because Larry was with, I think, the Patriots, and he got a lot of notoriety for special teams before Matthew Slater. There's no Matthew Slater. There's no Larry Izzo, right? Without Steve Tasker. And that's where I struggle with, like you said, the moving of the goalpost. What more do you have to do, right? Ray Guy is a punter. He finally got his recognition.
I'm going to put it back up there. This is what you say. This is what you say. We didn't say it. You said it. You said it's the impact on the game, revolutionizing a position or changing how the game is played. That's what you said. Not you, Stevie D, but that's what you've told us. And as Stevie D said, you've moved the goalpost.
Yeah. So I struggle with that. And like Adam Vinatieri, what more can he have? What else do he has to prove? Not for nothing. Morton Anderson had a ton of points. I'm not taking away his Hall of Fame career of 27 years or 28 years or whatever he did in the NFL. But if I got a kick to make, hey, Adam, I need you. I'm not calling Morton Anderson. Sure, I'm not calling Gary Anderson, right? But
former Buffalo Bill.
Is he really? Gary Anderson was a Bill? Wow. I'm calling Adam Vinatieri because he's shown that he can kick in every clutch situation and get it done. That's the guy I'm calling. He's got to be in the Hall of Fame. He's got to be in the Hall of Fame. It's not going to be that liquored up kicker from Indianapolis. Right? That's for darn sure. What was his name? Vanderjagt?
Mike Vanderjagt.
Mike Vanderjagt. So, yeah.
So, I would, if you get a chance, anybody out there, if you get a chance, just kind of go through the classes. Stevie D, I would say that things change for the NFL probably mid 2010. So if we start looking around 2013, 14, 15, I think that's when we started to see a change. And that change went from guys that were deserving to guys that are more questionable. And what's unfair is the guys that really are deserving have to kind of share that stage with the guys that are questionable. They will never say that. They'll welcome them with open arms. But I think really, if you start class 2015 to current, I think that's when we'll see a lot of the names that really should not be in the Hall of Fame.
Deion Sanders, I thought, had the best quote, and I wish I knew the exact quote, but it definitely hit me where he said the Hall of Fame has definitely taken a step back, and maybe it's become too commercialized. And it's a big moneymaker to do the Hall of Fame and have these ceremonies, and because the NFL has grown and the NFL and the Hall of Fame has grown, right? They put a ton of money into the Hall of Fame in the last few years to grow the wings of the Hall of Fame, and he really called it, it's like diluted.
Yeah. Well, he said it's become too inclusive, and that the standards are not as high as they once were.
I think it's well said there, right? Because you're talking about, and it kind of goes back to the point when you compared Eric Allen to Deion Sanders, right? Deion Sanders is the gold standard there, right? And it's like Eric Allen. I don't even know if you can hold his shoes, let alone be in the same building as him. And again, it's not disrespect to Eric Allen. I know it sounds that way. It's just that's how good Deion Sanders was, and I agree with his statement. It has been it's been on decline, and we're letting people in. I truly do believe it's because it's become such an event. But that's what's so puzzling about this class, that you went with three and only
Right.
really two deserving. Again, Sterling Sharp is different because he's senior, right? Everybody goes in. Somebody goes in from the senior class. So out of five people that you could have put in, really only two would have made it. One shouldn't have, and you had two open spots. That's what's the anomalies here this year. Like, how do we get there?
Let me go back to Dion's comments, right? So, he said it's become too inclusive. The standards are not as high as they once were. Sanders also said um, that the Hall of Fame should be reserved for players who changed the game. Where did we hear that before, Stevie D?
Hmm.
And have had a profound impact, rather than those who have just had a long and productive career. He specifically stated that the Hall of Fame uh, ain't the Hall of Fame no more, and that my Hall of Fame jacket has got to be a different color. And you're right, right? That's the platinum prime. That's the platinum. But again, who changed the game? Who changed the game? Okay, we're gonna have to do a part two, because I do want us to at least give some time to MLB. Um, Again, this is OW Sports. It's not just OW Sports NFL. It's OW Sports, right? And when we talk about Hall of Fame, this is probably, because remember we said that they changed in around 2015. We've known each other for a quarter century, and we've been debating this for a quarter century, right?
Yeah.
And so, really, the heart of the matter goes to, and who can take the honor, take the mantle, is Major League Baseball.
They are so bad.
So, I'm going to tell you where I am now. Where I am now. I think it is a travesty. I think it is an injustice that the likes of a Barry Bonds is not in Cooperstown. And I will tell you why. A lot of people will make the argument that he was on steroids, performance enhancing, blah blah blah. That's fine. My argument that I have always made to that is that you're so worried about your records. Your records from 1900, 1910, 1920. The game is completely different. That was a game that was not integrated with people from that were either black, Latino, of from Japan, from Korea. We didn't have a global outlet of players that were playing. It was one group that played in one area. They didn't even cover the whole country. So you're defining records that were here inside this little circle. The game has evolved. But also keep in mind, Stevie D, it may not have been defined as HGH or the clear or the cream. but there were things that people were doing to enhance their ability on the field. They didn't have the robust type of drug testing or identification, or they didn't want to.
That's it. They didn't want to because they struggled coming out of the strike.
Well,
You
I'm talking.
understand?
I'm going before that. I'm
Well,
talking about in like the 40s. But you're right.
every era had something.
That's
I'll
right.
never forget the All-Star game in 2008 at Yankee Stadium. Bob Costas hosted an event in New York City, and a lot of Hall of Famers were sitting in the crowd. Right, this was like a baseball-only crowd. It wasn't open to the public.
Mhm.
And he on the stage was Willie Mays and Hank Aaron. I like to think there was one other person, but I'm not 100% sure. I know those two are on there. And an actor who I don't like this actor. I don't know. There's something about him that just bothers me. Robert Wall, if I said the name right.
Arliss. Everybody knows him as Arliss.
Arliss, okay. He got up and asked a question about steroids and said, you know, back then when you played, we've heard that there was this magic potion that players would drink. Okay. Costas shut the question down and said, this is not the time or place for this. But Henry Aaron had a smirk on his face because he knew exactly what he was talking about. I'm not saying Henry Aaron took the potion. All I'm saying is if we think that every era of the game didn't have something where athletes that are born to be competitive are not going to look for that competitive advantage over somebody else, we're really blind.
That's right.
Right? We're really naive. When you have competitive juices, those take over because you want to be the best.
Well,
So
let me add on to that, because if you remember, same era, same time, because all of this was happening because of McGuire, Sosa, Bonds, Clemens, you name it,
and the
Bagwell,
list goes on. Palmero, right?
you
Goes
name
on.
it. Insert name here, right? There was an interview that was done on Sports Talk Radio with one of the guys that was in the bullpen. I want to say for the Braves, but I could be wrong. Okay, so for a Major League Baseball team.
Oh, it
And
was the Braves. The article you're referring to was the Atlanta Braves.
okay,
We talked about this, but it was definitely Atlanta. You had the right team.
and he was talking about how in the bullpen that they were taking things in the bullpen. Okay, this was on Sports Talk Show, and so it was aired, and everybody, oh wow, did you hear that? Articles were written that next day. Stevie D, I challenge you to find that article, because shortly after that article was published, and we talked about it, and we saw it with our own eyes. Somehow, that article is gone, expunged from. And they say nothing ever leaves the internet. I can't find it. I'm gonna tell you right now, I can't find it. Heard it, saw it, you heard it, you saw it. It's
Can't find
gone. It's almost as though there is another level of governance into Major League Baseball as to what we should applaud, what we should revere, and what we shouldn't. Who should be and who shouldn't be. But the game has been the same since the beginning of time. You just said, if you're an athlete, you want that competitive edge. More often than not, you are finding something. Is it legal or illegal? That's not for me to judge. I can go into GNC. I can go anywhere to a health food store. I can go online. I can say, hey, I'm working out. I need my muscles to recover faster. What do I do? Well, take this supplement. Take this before your workout. Take this after your workout. Right? These are different things that you can do. And I can go into any health food store, any supplement store, and they will have that there. Is that necessarily a bad thing? I'm working out. I'm grinding. I'm trying to make my body the best that it can be. If I need to recover, what's wrong with letting my body recover? And at the end of the day, Stevie D, when we talk about steroids, technically the steroids don't make you hit the ball farther. They don't. It doesn't make you into this superhuman. And so it allows you to train so that you can become that superhuman. That's what it allows you to do.
And,
You still have to work
and recovery. A
and,
lot of
and
stuff
recover.
helps you recovery to play every day. I mean, in the 70s, they had the ludes, right? They had the amphetamines. That was they called greenies, right? They used to say they used to put in a big bowl and you go and grab them, right? That gave you the energy to go play. Amphetamine, there you go, right? They gave you the energy in the 70s to go play, early 80s. Everybody had something. Every era had something. And I'll take it a step further with Bonds and or Clemens and I'm not a fan of McGuire as far as being in the Hall of Fame. And that's going to be in part two. And I'll give my reasons why. Every era had something. And if you think that all the players that played in this steroid era, there are people in the Hall of Fame right now that took steroids. Okay? Sorry, Goose Gossage, who's been a really big guy going against guys on the steroids. You have guys in your era, Goose, that took something. So whether it's a steroid or amphetamines, you took something to help your performance. And if that is still cheating by the definition. What I will say is that Major League Baseball turns their back because coming after the 94 strike, the attendance was way down in 95. People struggled with coming back. Struggled, right? And what I don't care for is that you had, again, I'm not a Mark McGuire guy, but you had the home run battle of Sosa and McGuire. That brought fans back, brought the interest back in the game. It was an exciting stretch down there in September with those two. Okay. And what happens? Now all of a sudden you turn your back and say, well, now steroids are a problem and blah, blah, blah. No. No. And you didn't get suspended for it. They weren't testing for it. We're moving the needle, moving the goalpost, right? And I struggle. I truly
I'm
struggle.
smiling. I'm smiling, Stevie D, because I'm going back in that way back machine, right? I'm going back to when McGuire's standing in front of his locker, and you have all the media members in his locker, and they look up there and they say, "Oh, what's that?" Right? It's Andrew. And what happened? They just, because they wanted to lift him up, that it didn't matter. I'm going to tell you, you look at that Oakland A's team, and there was nothing but syringes hanging out of every player as they went up to bat. Right? Like, each and every one of them. I mean, it was just a fueled steroid team. And Canseco told you.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't want to believe Canseco, but he told you, right? That the whole Bash brothers, that came because, they hit each other, they did the elbows because they couldn't high five because, the way that the injections were going.
But former Yankee player Randy Velarde, he was a utility guy. I liked him when he was with the Yankees, but he was not a starter. He left the Yankees and went to Oakland, and he got popped for steroids, and he said the reason why, and I thought this was an unbelievable answer, and I give him credit for telling the truth. He says, "I am not a great baseball player. I'm the guy at the bottom of the roster. I'm working hard, and I'm watching guys that were worse than me all of a sudden jump me, not just by a little." He says, you take guys that are hitting 5-6 home runs a year, like kind of like what I was, and all of a sudden they're hitting 20 home runs a year. And he's like, I wound up taking it because I didn't want to be out of the game. So I had to take it to keep up with the other guys at the bottom of the roster that were taking it, and all of a sudden sort of jump in their game. And that's kind of what it became. And I think a lot of players took it. I think a lot of like Brady Anderson. You
want to say Chris Davis? I would have jumped all over with Brady. Yeah,
Brady Anderson hit no home runs in his career, and then all of a sudden he hits 50 or 51, and then you never hear from him again, right? And so I think you have those players that took it because they didn't want to be out of the game.
So if anybody that should have been kicked out and he hasn't been kicked out, should be Tony La Russa.
Oh, he knew everything, right? It followed him in St. Louis, right?
If you want a RICO charge, not Diddy on a RICO charge, it's Tony La Russa on a RICO charge, right? Think about what happened in Oakland and then it follows him over into St. Louis. Oh, come on.
Yeah.
But Stevie D, there is something to what Craig had said a little earlier, right? Um, and this is what bothers me, not just the steroid era, right? So Craig said Bonds pissed off the media. He did.
Oh, we're going to bring this conversation up. You know how passionate I am about this part of the conversation.
Well, I think we have to, right? I think we have to. He did, and I'll let you run with it because it goes back to the Pittsburgh Pirate days.
Yes. Right. So to put the context on it, right, the Pirates were a beast in the early 90s. They were a beast, right? And so Bonds, has 2 bad playoff series in a row with Pittsburgh. I think he's sub 200 average. He's got no power, right? Really, Pittsburgh's offense went all around Barry Bonds. It started and finished with him. He was the spark plug. And so he has 2 bad series. And this is what gets me about the media and about sports. I think they've done a better job today with it. You're at the end of a game. I just lost in 6 games. I just lost in 7 games to a team. I know damn well I didn't play well. It's eating me up. I'm an athlete at the highest level. I am one of the best players in the game. I let my team down. I let my city down. And this guy doesn't have an opportunity to change his uniform, and he's got these cameras in his face, saying, Barry, did you choke out there? Barry, what? How come he didn't hit? How come he didn't throw this run around? But I need to compress. I got to decompress. Like, I am an athlete here, and I just lost, and you're in my face. So yeah, he snapped at reporters because you know what? Every one of us would have done it. Anyone who's got a competitive bone would have snapped at a reporter. Major League Baseball, like other sports, they did not understand that players need that decompressed time, whether that's 30 minutes or 60 minutes after a game, to shower, change, collect their thoughts, talk with teammates, and then hit the media.
But moreover, especially when it comes to Bonds, what ended up happening is that singular moment became a dividing line, a us versus him type between the media and Barry. The media all supported each other in that. And so there were guys, no matter what city he went to, whether it was in Pittsburgh or in New York or LA or Chicago, wherever, it wasn't the guy just yet that was ready to make a name for himself by asking the outlandish and derogatory type question. It was that they were all fueled by how he reacted to their brethren back then.
Yes. Yes.
And so now you got Barry on the other side. Now, Barry's no angel. Don't get me wrong. When he was at Arizona State, no angel, right? But he also didn't deserve, to your point, he didn't deserve to be in that situation at that moment. Understand the gravity of the situation. You play 162 games, the absolute grind of all grinds to get to the postseason. You get to the postseason. You have basically, to your point, carried your team. Yes, you had Bonilla, advanced, like you had all these guys. Yeah, you had them, but you were the centerpiece. And when you finally got to that mountain point, you just fell. And they didn't put out a lifeline to hold you back, to hold you up, and you fell and you attacked. And it was an attack versus attack, and nobody ever really sought common ground. The Bob Costas, who's supposed to be a baseball lover, nope, you didn't do that. You didn't do that whatsoever, Bob Costas. You actually helped perpetuate what was going on.
Yeah, I just thought he got a raw deal on that. Again, when it comes back to athletes, you've got to give them space and time. And we talked about the right. It is that they're a cult together, right? They are one for all for one, or whatever the saying is, right? That's how they are. And they carried that grudge his whole career.
And they carry it now.
Right, because he's not. Well, I don't think he's not in the Hall of Fame necessarily because of that. They're making a stand on the players they want to make a stand against.
But they're making a stand on him. It has come all the way from past to present, and now it's over, right? But it's come all the way, really, because of that. Because then all of a sudden he became persona non grata, and they didn't like him. And even though he's putting up great numbers in Pittsburgh, they don't like him. Then he goes to San Francisco and continues to put up great numbers. Keep in mind, Hall of Famer in Pittsburgh goes to San Francisco, puts up great numbers. They don't like you. And now what do? You shatter the home run record, and they are dead set against you breaking that record.
Well, I slightly, I don't know if I want to say disagree. I think the cream and all of that stuff that came out with, because him and Clemens kind of retired around the same time. They were tainted at that point in time, and they were not getting in. It's like A-Rod. A-Rod will never get in. It just won't happen. They're going to make that stand that those guys that were that public, they're not getting in. You know which one pisses me off that's not in the Hall of Fame? The one guy that, I mean, there's a lot of guys. Right. And look, if you take the 7 MVPs away, he's got 400 plus home runs and 300 plus batting average if you take the MVPs away. So it's stupid that he's not in the Hall of Fame. But you know what? One player that bothers me because he did the right thing and doesn't get the respect. Fred McGriff. That one bothers me. You know why? Because when we talk about players and we talk about game planning, right? Like we talk about that in football. Do we have to game plan against that defensive end? The one guy that was always in the lineup that you talked about as a fan, man, I don't want to go up against Fred McGriff. We better pitch around Fred McGriff. Fred McGriff's going to kill us. Fred McGriff was, to me, a feared hitter for decades. For 17 years, he was a feared hitter. Okay, he didn't hit the 500 home runs, but he was a feared hitter. He was a guy that teams traded for to win a World Series multiple times. He was that hired gun. He was a feared guy that batted fourth every year in that lineup. How Crime Dog is not in the Hall of Fame is striking to me. He's a no doubt Hall of Famer to me. And he grew up in an era where I really studied the game of baseball. Statistics, I watched a lot of baseball. Growing up, I'm sure back home, I was fortunate to have TBS. So I was able to watch the Atlanta Braves back in the early 80s. So I watched him when he was with the Braves because I had TBS. I watched a lot of Fred McGriff baseball, To me, it's a crime. And that's no pun. It's a crime that he's not in there. I just think he's just doesn't. I don't know why he doesn't get the love that he showed, and he did it. We'll call it the right way. He played the game the right way.
You know what I'm thinking here, Stevie D. We probably misjudged this topic. We saved it for the end. And we probably should have done this during what we deemed the dog days.
Right.
And have part 1, part 2, part 3. Because now that we start, we still have a lot more to go on the NFL. But now we start talking about baseball. Right? And you're talking about guys like a Fred McGriff who is not in and should be in. Right? We talk about in baseball where and I think it's true in football as well, but the first ballot Hall of Fame and the mystique that goes around the first ballot. But then we look at guys that aren't first ballot Hall of Famers. And it really it makes you wonder about the sports writers, right? What are you thinking? Right? And you could rattle off the names. I know we were talking, you rattled off the names before. You could rattle off the names and say, are you kidding me? That this guy wasn't a first ballot Hall of Famer? Are you kidding? And you understand the level of control that the Hall of Fame in baseball is not really the fans Hall of Fame. It's not. It's not the players Hall of Fame. It's the sports writers.
Yeah.
That is their Hall of Fame. That's their place. They should put their name on it. The proceeds should go to them because they are the judge, jury, and executioner. And if they don't deem that, said they know somebody's going to go in the Hall of Fame, but why don't we? Hey, Bob, don't vote for him. That way it's not unanimous. Oh, okay. All right, Bob Gibson, you're not unanimous. Excuse me.
Yeah. We just talked about this, right? There's only been one. I love Mariano Rivera. Love him. Okay. But when you think of how many relievers were snubbed just to make the Hall of Fame, because, oh, you're a reliever, you only pitch X. He was the first one to go in unanimous, and he was a reliever. He wasn't an everyday player. He wasn't a starter that would go 9 innings. And I love Mariano Rivera. I absolutely think he's a Hall of Famer. I'm happy he got 100% of the vote. But how can he be the first one? I don't.
Griffey is not a unanimous.
I don't. But there's so many. Bob Gibson, Tom Seaver, right? You can go on about. I'm just going to go with my Yankees, right? From DiMaggio to Mantle, right? To Yogi Berra, right? It's just Babe Ruth, right? All these guys. Ted Williams, right? Like.
Even
in this modern day, Ken Griffey Jr., right? The kid, right? Like how you lose your vote when you vote for guys that shouldn't even be listed on a ballot, or you're not going to vote to somebody because, well, you know what? I get 10 votes, and I know this guy's definitely going to get 75% of the vote, so I want to vote over here. To me, you taint the Hall of Fame. Because you're saying that well, no, I'm not saying that. I just knew that this guy. No. Your vote spoke. Your vote spoke and said Ken Griffey Jr. was not a Hall of Famer. You should lose your vote. Dumbest thing ever. Dumbest thing ever. And you lose, to me, credibility.
They all lose credibility in my book. When we talk about reform, when we talk about change, we're not talking about politics. They leave that over there. We're talking about sports. We're talking about Hall of Fame. There needs to be reform. There needs to be change. Things need to happen. And if it means like Prime was talking about, or like what we've talked about, Stevie D, if there needs to be a new Hall of Fame, let's do it. If you want to go look at the artifact, go over there. If you want to truly see who the enshrined should be, and we can do it for football, for baseball, for basketball, for hockey. Maybe throw in golf. You got a wing over there, right? Golf has it. And then that's it. That's it. And make it the fans' Hall of Fame. The true deserving people. Without the bias.
Right. You're supposed to be the greats of the greats. The icons of your sport. And it's diluted. It's diluted. And again, for the money. Right? The more people you put in, we're going to bring more fans from more teams to come in. That day is going to be that much bigger. We're going to have more people visiting to the Hall of Fame. Follow the money.
I'm laughing because what do they say? You have to follow the money. Well, there you go. All right, Stevie D. We have banged this a lot. We do apologize for some of the technical difficulties that we had earlier, but once we got going, we hit our stride. And you guys understand the passion that we have about the Hall of Fame. And it's not just the NFL. We talked a little bit about Major League Baseball. We are going to revisit this. And what the hopes are, Stevie D, maybe we can get some input from, maybe some of the writers, maybe somebody that actually has a vote. Maybe you can come on and explain to us, right? Not that you have to, and not that we deserve the explanation, but explain to us what goes on in that process. How does a Jerome Bettis get himself into the Hall of Fame and a Steve Tasker doesn't? Explain that. right? Help me understand that. Help me understand how Adam Vinatieri, amongst a class of only 4, and really a class of 3, find himself on the outside looking in. Help me understand that. Help me understand, to your point we just talked about, how a Mariano Rivera gets a unanimous 100%. But guys that we talk about being on Mount Rushmore, and unfortunately, Mo is not ever part of that conversation of Mount Rushmore. But how those guys on Mount Rushmore didn't get unanimous? Explain that. If you can make that make sense, first of all, you deserve a medal. You deserve a jacket and a bust on your own. But then maybe it would help ease some of the tension and conflict that we have with the Hall. We want to appreciate that, right? We want to go back in history. We want to appreciate the greats. But we don't want there to always be, this debate. Is he or isn't he? And maybe that's ultimately what they want. Who knows?
Well said.
Again, appreciate everybody who hung with us, participated. We appreciate you. Today's day 1, right? The kiddos are in school, right? Isn't that what happened? Right? We had picture day at the bus stop, looking at them, with the new drip, right? They got going on. The backpacks and everything else. So everybody's checked in. Practice has started. And here we go. Buckle up. It's time for that ride, and I know that I can't wait for it. A lot of pressure on Buffalo this year. I think Buffalo is the team with the most pressure. Kansas City doesn't have it, Stevie D, because they've already been there. Right? It doesn't really matter. Baltimore, you got a little bit, but not you've already been there, right? And the one that is coming in, if you look at the strength of schedule, if you look at the way that the schedule is set up for Buffalo, that is, I'm not going to call it soft. But it lays out really, really, really nice. It lays out really nice. Like almost like the league wanted to put you in a situation so that you would get the number 1 seed. And they're going to say, we got you here. Now, Sean McDermott, it's up to you to bring it home.
Yeah.
Right, that schedule is nice.
Your favorite in all 17 as of right now, right?
Right.
So it's like
has that ever happened where a team has been a favorite in every game?
I don't recall.
And maybe the Patriots when they had that run, but you are right. We're a favorite in all 17 games.
Right. And look, the key is health.
Sure.
Right? Any team you want to be a really, play deep and have that, it's health. And that's what it is. You got to figure that out, and you're going to be in really good shape because your team is a really good team.
New strength and conditioning guy. I'm all about the strength and conditioning. Give me a yoga guy. Oh boy, somebody got somebody got their feelings hurt.
No, I think it was that writer in Baltimore that said it.
It may have been.
Yeah,
it may have been. But it is a true say. Actually, no, I think it's coming out of Vegas.
Yes, it's coming out of Vegas. I was trying to pull Craig's there. Yeah, the Baltimore Tribune.
Wow. So somebody, I applaud you for staying with us for the entire duration. I applaud that. Thank you, Craig. We're at the end of the show. Don't let the blood pressure get high.
Hey, that the remark. I don't know if we could put that other remark on there. We're a family friendly show here,
right? So, all right. Well, that's gonna wrap it up. We will see you next week, and then next week is the countdown to Hard Knocks. Craig, make sure you check out Hard Knocks. But I can't talk junk to either one of you because you both have already been on there.
Yes, and the Jets 2010 was ranked one of the highest ever. That one. Although the Bengals in 2009, from what I heard, got the highest rating. The most views was the episode 1 of 2009. The Jets, the Lions, and some other team got rave reviews, but the best episode was the Baltimore Ravens on the talent show. Bar none, was the best. That talent show that year was ridiculous.
I just think that whole Ravens Hard Knocks, because you remember you had the Saragusa
Yeah.
where they pulled the prank on him. I hope that the Bills have the lowest rated. I hope it's the worst. I hope they actually have to reconsider doing Hard Knocks after the Bills. Right? That's what I'm hoping for. But we'll see. That's coming up. Okay, gonna wrap this one up. We appreciate everybody. We appreciate the support. We appreciate everybody tuning into the podcast. And we will see you next week. So for my co-host, Mr. Stevie D, I'm Vince. We'll talk to you soon.
What you gonna listen to? Oh, OWSPORTS. What you gonna listen to? Oh, OWSPORTS. Sit back, relax. Vince and Stevie D are gonna break it down about the team from their hometown.
And there he goes inside the 10, the 5. Oh, the play of the year. That's a Jet touchdown. Garrett Wilson strikes.
You gonna laugh, you gonna cry, but these two are ride or die.
61-yard try for the lead. It is Owens. He's got it. He's got it. He's got it. Here is Hall. Shot out of a cannon, and he will score.
They'll take you all the way to the Super Bowl or the exhibition game. Stay with them all the way to the Hall of Fame.
And the AP Most Valuable Player presented by Invisalign is Josh Allen.
Be good, do good. God